It's week 2 of the Overwatch League and the New York Excelsior are undefeated. Teams regularly rotate players depending on the map, and whenever New York brings out Pine, you know it's gonna front page Reddit.
Pine, Big Boss Pine is on the scene!
So far, we've only seen NYXL play Pine on control maps, so it's a surprise to see him playing Dorado, a payload map, versus the LA Gladiators. Pine's never played a payload map on stage at OWL, but that doesn't stop him from pulling out the Widowmaker to full hold Gladiators to point A.
Traveling to Dorado.
There's a few ways you can set up a Dorado defense. A lot of teams like to put a D.Va or a Winston up here to jump the attackers coming out from spawn. It's an aggressive style that can win you early ultimate tempo, but New York opts for a safer setup. Instead of jumping the attack up front, they draft a comp to control key areas of the map. Junkrat can apply constant pressure on the chokes, while the Widowmaker controls the open sightlines overlooking the path. If the Gladiators just run straight in, they'll get shredded. LA plays it smart. In the first 20 seconds, Hydration spots Pine rotating off the bridge and towards the back of the plaza. It's likely Pine's trying to set up on the high ground to cover the flank routes, so LA go for a surprise flank of their own. Pharah loses hard when dueling a Widowmaker, so Hydration waits for his Tracer Surefour to cause a distraction before he jumps in.
To provide the distraction on the flank though. Now they're going in.
All right, Hydration trying to take down Pine. He's got him pretty low. He gets it.
The timing is perfect from LA, and Hydration takes out Pine before he can react, making it a 6v5. With the early pick, the Gladiators are gaining steady ground with the payload already close to point A. It's looking real good until Hydration gets world starred.
The trap.
Yeah.
On the high ground.
With the Pharah down, New York jump in for the 6v5. LA try to fight their way out, but Pine picks Winston on the exit and Jonak finds the Tracer, buying New York time and ult charge for the next LA push. With the payload so deep, the second New York setup's a bit different. Junkrat makes sure LA can't push the underpass, while Widowmaker, far back, can watch the wide flank, LA's only real option. Unlucky for LA, Pine's really bad at missing. He catches Mercy as she tries to cross and hops right back to the market to catch Tracer on the wide flank. Meanwhile, Libero lets it rip from the flank and gets the dunk on Chaz and Hydration, ending the push for LA. This constant pressure from Pine is definitely bugging LA, so on their next push, they set up a pinch. The plan? Surefour hits Pine from the flank right as his tanks dive in. But Pine actually spots Surefour blinking across, so he repositions for a safer angle. Pine pops his head in and out to watch the cross and sees Winston ready for the dive as soon as D.Va gets her mech back. He knows that Tracer's waiting for her tanks, so as soon as he sees the tanks show themselves, he hops back to wait for the Tracer. Surefour's dead, but iRemix and Bishu are already committed. But without the Tracer, they can't burst Pine down. Meko immediately flies in to create space for Pine, and Pine grapples to safety, surviving with his ult. With the infra sight, Pine sees that nobody's chasing him, and he happily rotates around LA to find a free kill on Zenyatta. Super clutch since Zen had his ult.
Want to push this. This is their moment, but they lose Chaz too. Pine looping around the back, and there's no one there to really stop him right now.
The Gladiators do sniff out the Spider and Squasher, but they surrender total control of the payload doing so. The scatter lets New York pick off half of the Gladiators and completely stagger their respawn timings. By the time LA get all 6 players back up, there's less than 10 seconds on the clock. While LA went for calculated flanks in their first few pushes, they no longer have the luxury of time to set up. With less than 5 seconds on the clock, iRemix jumps over the wall to flank, but is immediately hit with a Discord orb and melted by Meko. With no Winston to bother the Widow, Pine gets to fire uncontested from the high ground. But LA still have 2 big ults, so the fight's far from over. LA combo Dragon Blade with Transcendence as a last resort. Trans counters pretty much all sustain damage, but Widow can still one-shot most heroes through it. Pine's unable to finish the Genji, but he lands a clean headshot on Mercy, taking everyone's favorite hero out of the fight. Libero stops Genji with a Riptire before getting traded, then Jonak finds the kill on LA's last DPS, Tracer. At this point, it's a 4v3, but since New York still have their Mercy, Arc flies into res Janice, making it a 5v3 in overtime. Outnumbered, LA gets cleaned up in the final fight and failed to capture a single point on their attack. On their defense, the Gladiators draft the Doomfist comp that they actually full-held Shanghai Dragons with during week 1. But with only 73 meters to push the payload, NYXL roll through the Gladiators in just 63 seconds without dying, earning them the map win.
That was a dominant performance from New York, and honestly great patience from the Excelsior team as well.
For more Overwatch interviews and analysis, subscribe to our channel. You can also find stats, discussions, and more on our website and mobile app at blitzesports.com.